Welcome to Abba Memorabili, from time beyond memory. I'm Drake,
And I'm Holly, where ancient wisdom meets modern minds.
brought to you by the most ancient anamnetic order of Trikala, for seekers everywhere, whether you're walking with us or simply curious about the path.
Each episode, we explore the hidden patterns that connect philosophy, consciousness, and human transformation.
Drawing from traditions east and west, old and new, familiar and forgotten.
Because some truths exist outside of time, waiting to be remembered, not learned.
On this episode, we're exploring humanity's oldest story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and why its hero's complete failure to achieve his goal might be the most important teaching ever carved in clay.
Drake, we live in a culture obsessed with success stories, with heroes who overcome all obstacles. But our oldest story, the first epic ever written, ends with the hero losing everything he sought. And you're saying that's intentional?
Not just intentional, essential. The Epic of Gilgamesh, carved into tablets 4,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, gives us a hero who fails at literally every major quest he undertakes. He fails to keep his best friend alive. He fails to achieve immortality. He even fails to keep the plant of youth he finally acquires. And in that cascade of failures lies perhaps the deepest wisdom humanity has ever encoded in story.
Let's set the stage for those unfamiliar with the epic.
Gilgamesh is king of Uruk, 2/3 divine, 1/3 human. Already that proportion tells us something. He's mostly god, but crucially not entirely. He's magnificent, but tyrannical, so oppressive that his people cry out to the gods for help.
And the gods' solution is interesting. They don't punish him or humble him. They create an equal.
Enkidu, the wild man who lives with animals, drinks with gazelles, doesn't know human civilization. He's everything Gilgamesh isn't. Natural where Gilgamesh is civilized, innocent where Gilgamesh is sophisticated. The gods create him as a balance, a complement.
But before they can meet as equals, Enkidu must be civilized. And the method is fascinating, through sexuality and intimate connection with Shamhat, a temple priestess.
7 days and nights of lovemaking that transform Enkidu from beast to human. Afterwards, the animals flee from him. He's gained human consciousness, but lost his natural innocence. It's like a Mesopotamian Garden of Eden. Knowledge comes at the price of primal unity.
There's something profound in that transformation. Enkidu gains language, understanding, the ability to think abstractly, but he loses his direct connection to nature, his unconscious harmony with the wild. It's the human condition in miniature, consciousness as both gift and loss.
And Shamhat doesn't just seduce him. She teaches him. She clothes him, introduces him to bread and beer, to human customs. She's his initiator into human culture. The epic understands that becoming human isn't just biological but cultural, that we're made human through connection and teaching.
The role of the sacred prostitute is fascinating here. In Mesopotamian culture, temple priestesses who engaged in sacred sexuality weren't marginalized but honored. They were intermediaries between divine and human, civilized and wild.
Shamhat is essentially a consciousness technician. She uses the most primal human connection, sexuality, to bridge Enkidu from animal to human consciousness. It's transformation through intimacy, through the breakdown of boundaries between self and other.
When Enkidu and Gilgamesh finally meet, they fight.
Epic battle in the streets of Uruk. They're perfectly matched. Neither can defeat the other. And in that mutual recognition of equality, they become best friends, closer than brothers. It's beautiful. The gods sent Enkidu to check Gilgamesh's power, but instead, their friendship amplifies both their strengths.
The fight is almost like a dance, a testing of boundaries that becomes a recognition of sameness. They grapple in the streets, but the text suggests it's as much embrace as combat.
And notice how their friendship immediately turns outward, toward adventure, toward proving themselves against cosmic forces. It's like their combined energy needs a greater challenge than either could face alone.
And together they achieve what neither could alone. They defeat Humbaba, guardian of the cedar forest, and the bull of heaven.
Classic hero victories. They seem invincible together. But here's where the story turns. The gods decide Enkidu must die as punishment for killing the bull of heaven. And this death, this is where Gilgamesh's real journey begins.
But let's pause on those victories because they're not simple hero triumphs. Humbaba, the forest guardian, begs for his life. He offers to serve Gilgamesh, to give him all the cedars. And Enkidu convinces Gilgamesh to kill him anyway.
It's morally complex. Humbaba was appointed by the gods to protect the forest. The heroes are essentially committing ecological destruction for glory. They're cutting down the sacred cedars, killing the divine guardian. Their heroism is also hubris.
And the bull of heaven, sent by Ishtar after Gilgamesh rejects her romantic advances. He insults her, lists all her previous lovers she's destroyed. He's right about her destructive patterns, but his rejection is cruel, humiliating.
The heroes are powerful but not necessarily good. They're driven by ego, by the desire for fame. We will make a name for ourselves, they say before fighting Humbaba. It's glory-seeking that brings divine punishment.
Which makes Enkidu's death even more complex. It's punishment, yes, but also consequence. When you kill divine guardians and heavenly bulls, when you defy gods and destroy sacred forests, there's a price.
His grief is overwhelming.
For 7 days and nights, he refuses to let them bury Enkidu, waiting for him to wake up. When he finally accepts the death, his lamentation is heartbreaking. May the bears mourn you, the lions, the wild beasts. May the paths we walked together mourn you. He tears his hair, rips off his fine clothes, wanders the wilderness like a madman.
The depth of his grief is extraordinary for ancient literature. He doesn't maintain royal composure, he completely falls apart. He becomes wild, like Enkidu was before civilization. Grief returns him to a pre-civilized state.
And notice what he mourns. Not just Enkidu, but everything they did together. The paths they walked, the adventures they shared. He's mourning the loss of shared experience, of someone who knew his stories from the inside.
And this grief transforms into terror. If Enkidu can die, so can he.
I am afraid of death, so I roam the wilderness. That line, that's every human who's ever lost someone and suddenly understood their own mortality. Gilgamesh, the great hero king, is reduced to raw existential terror.
The text is explicit about his fear. He touches Enkidu's heart and feels no beat. He sees maggots fall from Enkidu's nose. The physical reality of death horrifies him. This isn't noble grief. It's visceral terror at bodily decomposition.
And this terror drives everything that follows. He's not seeking immortality from wisdom or spiritual attainment. He's running from the image of Enkidu's decomposing body, from the knowledge that his body will do the same.
So he sets out on a quest for immortality, seeking Utnapishtim, the one human who survived the Great Flood and was granted eternal life.
The journey itself is significant. He travels to the edge of the world, through the mountains where the sun rises and sets, past the scorpion beings who guard the boundary between worlds. He's literally going beyond the human realm, trying to transcend the human condition.
The scorpion beings are fascinating. They guard the tunnel through which the sun travels at night. Gilgamesh must walk 12 leagues in absolute darkness, following the sun's path through death to rebirth. It's a shamanic journey, a descent into the underworld of consciousness.
He emerges in a jeweled garden, trees bearing gems instead of fruit. It's paradise, but a sterile one. Beautiful but lifeless, valuable but unnourishing. Perhaps a symbol of what immortality without mortality would be, crystalline perfection without life's messiness.
He meets Siduri, the divine bartender who gives him perhaps the epic's most important advice. Gilgamesh, where are you wandering? The life you seek, you will not find. When the gods created humanity, they assigned death to humanity, but life they kept in their own hands.
Her advice is essentially, enjoy life while you have it, fill your belly, wear clean clothes, bathe, be happy, cherish your child, delight in your wife. It's almost hedonistic, or maybe just deeply human.
But Gilgamesh can't hear it. He's too driven by fear, too focused on his quest. This is another failure. The failure to accept wise counsel, to recognize when the answer is to stop searching.
And when he finally reaches Utnapishtim, what does he learn?
That's the first great failure. Utnapishtim essentially tells him, you can't have what I have. My immortality was a one-time gift for a specific circumstance. Surviving the flood that destroyed humanity. There's no path to immortality for you.
But first, Utnapishtim tells him the flood story, the prototype for Noah's Ark, and every flood myth thereafter.
And it's crucial that we get this story here. Utnapishtim didn't earn immortality through heroic action. He was chosen, warned by the god Ea to build a boat. His immortality was given, not achieved. There's no method Gilgamesh can replicate.
It's the ultimate, you can't get there from here. Immortality isn't a prize to be won or a technique to be mastered. It was a singular divine exception that actually proves the rule. Humans are mortal.
But Utnapishtim does offer him a test. Stay awake for 7 days and nights.
And Gilgamesh immediately falls asleep. The great hero who fought cosmic bulls and forest guardians can't even stay awake. He fails the most basic test of consciousness.
Utnapishtim's wife bakes a loaf of bread each day Gilgamesh sleeps. So when he wakes, claiming he just dozed off, the 7 loaves in various states of decay prove he slept the full week. Even time betrays him. The bread decomposing like Enkidu's body, marking mortality in stale crusts and mold.
There's something profound there. He's seeking to transcend death, but can't even transcend sleep. Death's daily rehearsal.
Exactly. The order teaches that before seeking extraordinary states, we must master ordinary consciousness. Gilgamesh wants to leap to immortality, but hasn't even mastered wakefulness.
And sleep is necessary, inevitable, like death. Fighting sleep is as futile as fighting death. The test might have been designed for failure, to teach through failing.
But then comes what seems like redemption. Utnapishtim's wife convinces him to tell Gilgamesh about the plant of youth.
She pities him. After all his journeying, he can't go home empty-handed. It's compassion that opens this final possibility.
The old man becomes a young man, a plant at the bottom of the cosmic ocean that restores youth. And Gilgamesh succeeds. He dives deep, retrieves the plant. For a moment, it seems like the hero's journey will have its reward after all.
The dive itself is significant. He ties stones to his feet to sink to the ocean floor, literally weighting himself with earth to reach the depths. He must become heavy, mortal, to grasp at immortality.
And the plant pricks him as he grasps it, drawing blood. Even in success, there's pain, there's sacrifice. Nothing comes without cost in this story.
But he doesn't eat it immediately.
He decides to take it back to Uruk, to test it on an old man first, to share it with his people. It's actually a moment of wisdom and maturity. He's thinking beyond himself.
Or is it fear? Is he afraid to test it on himself? Is this caution or cowardice?
Perhaps both. But regardless, it shows growth. The tyrant who oppressed his people now wants to share miraculous gifts with them. The journey has changed him, even if it hasn't given him what he sought.
And then,
While bathing in a pool on the journey home, a snake smells the plant's fragrance and steals it, shedding its skin as it disappears. The snake gets the power of renewal, which is why snakes shed their skin. And Gilgamesh gets nothing.
he just sits and weeps.
For whom have I laboured? For whom has my heart's blood been spent? I have gained nothing for myself. The totality of his failure is complete. No immortality, no youth restoration, no victory over death.
But notice, he doesn't rage against the snake or the gods. He doesn't try to hunt the snake or find another plant. He accepts the loss with tears, but not violence. That's growth too.
The snake is perfect symbolically. In Mesopotamian mythology, snakes were associated with the god Ningishzida, a guardian of the underworld. The snake taking the plant is almost like the underworld reclaiming what was never meant for the living.
But the epic doesn't end with his weeping.
No, and this is crucial. He returns to Uruk with the ferryman and shows him the city walls. The walls he built, the foundation he laid, the lasting work of human hands. The epic ends where it began, with a description of Uruk's magnificent walls.
See its wall like a copper band, survey its inner wall which none can equal, touch the threshold stone, it's ancient. Approach the Iana temple, dwelling of Ishtar, which no king to come can equal.
He's showing Urshanabi, the ferryman, what humans can achieve. Not immortality, but something that outlasts the individual. The walls will stand long after Gilgamesh's dust.
So what's the hidden teaching in all this failure?
Multiple layers. First, the obvious. Mortality cannot be overcome through heroic action. No amount of strength, courage, or determination can defeat death. This is the human condition, and even the greatest heroes must accept it.
But it goes deeper than acceptance, doesn't it?
Much deeper. Look at what Gilgamesh actually achieves through his failures. His friendship with Enkidu, that transcendent connection, comes only because neither could defeat the other. His journey gives us the flood story that influenced every culture thereafter. His failure becomes the story itself, carved in stone, lasting longer than any immortality he could have achieved.
The immortality he achieved was through the story of his failure.
Precisely. 4,000 years later, we're discussing Gilgamesh. He's more immortal than if he'd eaten that plant. His failure to overcome death became the vessel for his actual immortality. In human memory, in cultural transmission, in the story that teaches each generation about mortality and meaning.
And the story itself acknowledges this. There are references throughout to writing, to carving the tale in stone. Gilgamesh is instructed to write his story on tablets. The epic is conscious of itself as epic, as something that will outlast its hero.
It's meta-narrative before we had the term. The story knows it's a story and knows that being a story is more lasting than being a life. Every time we tell Gilgamesh's tale, he achieves the immortality he couldn't grasp in life.
This is so different from later hero myths. Odysseus makes it home. Aeneas founds Rome. Even tragic heroes like Achilles get their glory. But Gilgamesh just fails.
And that's why it might be the most honest hero story ever told. The order teaches that genuine transformation often comes through failure, through the dissolution of who we thought we were. Gilgamesh starts as a tyrant convinced of his own magnificence. His failures strip away every illusion until he's just a man showing someone the walls he built.
There's something Buddhist about it, the stripping away of ego through suffering.
Though it predates Buddhism by over a millennium. But yes, the same recognition that grasping for permanence causes suffering, that wisdom comes through accepting impermanence. Gilgamesh grasps for immortality and loses everything. Only when he stops grasping does he find meaning.
The snake stealing the plant is particularly symbolic.
The snake has represented transformation and renewal across cultures. Ouroboros, Kundalini, the serpent in Eden. Here, the snake gains renewal by taking it from Gilgamesh. It's like the cosmos saying, renewal belongs to nature, to the cosmic cycle, not to individual ego trying to escape that cycle.
And snakes renew themselves by shedding skin. The old dies for the new to emerge. They embody the very principle Gilgamesh is trying to avoid. Death as prerequisite for renewal.
The snake doesn't become immortal. It gains the power to renew through cyclical death and rebirth. Even the consolation prize goes to the creature that accepts cycles rather than trying to escape them.
Let's talk about Enkidu's role more deeply, because his death is really the catalyst for everything.
Enkidu is fascinating because he represents the wild, natural self that must die for civilization to exist. But his death also kills something in Gilgamesh. The possibility of perfect companionship, of not being existentially alone.
Their friendship is one of literature's first great love stories. Not necessarily romantic, but profound connection between souls.
And notice how they become friends. Through fighting to a standstill. They recognize themselves in each other through conflict. The order teaches something similar. That we often find our deepest connections through creative conflict, through meeting our match.
When Enkidu dies, Gilgamesh doesn't just lose a friend, he loses half of himself.
My friend, the swift mule, the wild donkey of the mountain, the panther of the wilderness. We joined hands and climbed mountains. The poetry of his grief is extraordinary. He's lost not just Enkidu, but everything Enkidu represented. The wild self, the perfect companion, the one who understood him completely.
And his response to grief, becoming wild himself, wearing animal skins, roaming the wilderness. It's like he's trying to become Enkidu.
Or to find him again in the wild places. But you can't recover what's lost by imitating it. This is another failure, the failure to bring back the dead, even by becoming them.
There's a dream Enkidu has before dying that's crucial. He dreams of the underworld, a place where kings and priests and heroes all become servants, eating dust, living in darkness. No matter how great you were in life, death equalizes everyone.
And he curses the trapper who found him, Shamat who civilized him, the whole chain of events that brought him to civilization, and thus to death. But then he relents, blesses them instead. Even facing death, he chooses gratitude for having lived as human.
That's profound, choosing to bless the very experiences that led to mortality. Enkidu accepts what Gilgamesh cannot, that consciousness and mortality are inseparable, that to live as human is to die as human.
There's something else about the epic's structure that's significant. It's told as a frame story, beginning and ending with the walls of Uruk.
Circular structure, like the Ouroboros, the hero's journey that returns to exactly where it started, but with transformed understanding. Gilgamesh returns to the same walls, but now he sees them differently. They're not monuments to his glory, but to human achievement in the face of mortality.
The walls outlasted him.
And that's the teaching. What lasts isn't the individual, but what the individual creates and contributes. The walls, the story, the cultural memory, these achieve the immortality that the body cannot.
It reminds me of that idea that we die two deaths. Once when our body dies, and again when our name is spoken for the last time.
And Gilgamesh's name is still being spoken 4,000 years later. His failure became more immortal than any success could have been.
There's something else about the walls. They were built through the forced labor Gilgamesh imposed on his people, the very oppression that made them cry out for help. Yet these walls, born from tyranny, become the lasting monument, the thing worth showing to others.
So even our flaws, our mistakes, our oppressions can be transformed into something lasting and valuable. That's a complex teaching.
Or maybe it's saying that human achievement is always mixed. Glory and oppression, beauty and suffering, lasting monuments built on a temporal pain. Nothing human is purely good or evil.
The order often speaks about necessary failures on the path of transformation. How does Gilgamesh's story inform that teaching?
It shows that some truths can only be learned through failure. Gilgamesh could have been told, "You will die, accept it," at the beginning. But intellectual knowledge isn't embodied understanding. He had to fail at defeating death to truly understand mortality. He had to lose everything to understand what actually matters.
And what does matter according to the epic?
Connection, his friendship with Enkidu. Creation, the walls he built. Story, the tale that outlives the teller. Legacy, what we leave for others rather than trying to preserve ourselves.
It's almost like the epic is saying immortality is possible, just not personal immortality.
Yes! We achieve immortality through what flows through us into the future. Children, creations, stories, teachings. But the ego that wants to personally survive forever, that's the illusion that must fail for wisdom to emerge.
The epic even encodes this in its own history. The story was lost for thousands of years, the tablets broken and buried, yet it survived, was pieced together, translated. Like Gilgamesh himself, it died and was reborn.
And we're still finding new pieces. The epic we read isn't complete. There are gaps, missing tablets, different versions. It's a story about incompleteness told through an incomplete text.
There's one aspect we haven't discussed, the role of the gods in setting up these failures.
The gods in Gilgamesh are not benevolent guides, but cosmic forces that seem almost threatened by human ambition. They create Enkidu to check Gilgamesh. They kill Enkidu to punish the hero's success. They guard immortality jealously.
It's like they're enforcing the boundaries between human and divine.
And maybe that's another teaching. Know your limits. Gilgamesh is 2/3 divine. But that crucial 1/3 humanity means he must live and die as a human. No amount of divine blood changes that fundamental condition.
The order teaches about accepting our humanity while reaching for transcendence, not bypassing our human condition, but transforming within it.
Exactly. Gilgamesh tries to bypass humanity for divinity and fails. But in fully accepting his humanity, returning to Uruk, acknowledging the walls, he achieves something divine. A story that transcends time.
There's a parallel with the Tower of Babel story. Humans reaching too high, trying to storm heaven, and being scattered for their ambition. Both Mesopotamian tales about the necessity of limits.
But Gilgamesh is more complex. It's not just know your place. It's about finding meaning within limitations, achieving greatness not by transcending human conditions, but by fully inhabiting them.
What do you think modern culture most needs to learn from Gilgamesh's failure?
That failure isn't the opposite of success, but often its prerequisite. Our culture is so focused on winning, achieving, succeeding, that we've lost the wisdom of necessary failure. We medicate against sadness, distract from grief, deny aging, hide from death. Gilgamesh teaches that confronting these directly and failing to overcome them is where wisdom lives.
And that immortality isn't about preserving the ego, but about what we contribute to the ongoing human story.
The Silicon Valley billionaires trying to defeat death through technology are making Gilgamesh's mistake. They're seeking personal immortality when what matters is what flows through us to enrich the whole.
The epic suggests that accepting mortality might actually be the key to meaningful life.
Because once you accept the boundary, you stop wasting energy trying to cross it and focus on what's possible within it. Love, creation, contribution, beauty. Gilgamesh only appreciates Uruk's walls after accepting he won't live forever.
There's one more dimension, the role of women in guiding or blocking Gilgamesh's journey.
Remarkable, isn't it? Shamhat civilizes Enkidu. Ishtar's rage leads to Enkidu's death. Siduri advises accepting mortality. Utnapishtim's wife convinces him to give Gilgamesh the plant. Women are the hinges on which the plot turns.
They represent different aspects of life force: sexuality, rage, wisdom, compassion. While Gilgamesh seeks abstract immortality, the women embody life's actual forces.
And they're all more accepting of cycles, of limits. They don't seek to transcend conditions, but to work within them. Shamhat uses sexuality to transform. Siduri finds joy in daily life. Even Ishtar, in her rage, is enforcing natural cycles.
It's the feminine principle as acceptance of cycles versus the masculine drive to transcend them. Though that might be oversimplifying.
But there's truth in it. Gilgamesh's very quest is a masculine fantasy to achieve, to conquer, to transcend. His failure brings him back to the feminine wisdom of cycles, acceptance, working within limits.
The order recognizes both principles as necessary: the drive to transcend and the wisdom to accept. Gilgamesh shows what happens when one dominates without the other.
As we close, I'm struck by how the epic's survival itself embodies its message. The story was lost for thousands of years, the tablets broken and scattered. Yet it survived, was rediscovered, reconstructed.
Like Gilgamesh himself, broken by failure, but reconstructed in cultural memory, the story teaches its own message through its own existence. What matters isn't perfect preservation, but transmission, even partial, even broken, across time.
The order preserves and transmits wisdom in similar ways. Not perfectly, not completely, but continuously, across generations.
And like Gilgamesh's story, the wisdom often comes through the cracks, the failures, the places where certainty breaks down, and something deeper emerges.
Perhaps that's why it's humanity's first story. It tells the truth we most need to remember. Not that we can overcome mortality, but that mortality gives life meaning. Not that we'll succeed at everything, but that our failures might be our greatest teachers.
And that the story itself, the telling and retelling across millennia, creates the only immortality worth having. Not the preservation of the ego, but the continuation of wisdom, connection, and meaning across generations.
The epic knows this. It begins by inviting us to read Gilgamesh's story carved in stone, to learn from his journey. It makes us complicit in his immortality. Every time we read it, we resurrect him.
And maybe that's the deepest teaching, that we achieve immortality not by avoiding death, but by creating something worth preserving, something that helps others understand their own mortality and meaning.
Gilgamesh failed to become immortal, but succeeded in becoming eternal. He failed as a character, but succeeded as a story. He failed in his quest, but succeeded in showing us why the quest itself matters more than its achievement.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration.
Ab immemorabili, from time beyond memory.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing.
And remember, the wisdom you seek has always been within you.
You're not learning it.
You're remembering it.